So over here on the JP side of things, they finally decided to do another Evocation Festival. If you're an NA player and you don't know what that is, it's essentially where they bring back free-to-plays that you might have missed from old reruns, because apparently they don't want to do reruns anymore, except for that one time they did last year. They just can't seem to make up their mind on that one, but basically it gives you the opportunity to pick up any free-to-play servant as long as they're available in the Evocation shop. And we've got quite a few of them in there, and don't worry, this also includes stuff like their coins and their Ascension materials, and you can always get the leaflets that you need to exchange for said free-to-plays from events, and usually by logging in during these periods whenever they have these quote-unquote Evocation festivals. And most recently, they brought back Kiichi Hogen and then all of the Valkyries, as well as Eris. Now, as cool as it is that you can get all of the Valkyries, they didn't get a buff, so you can't do the interlude or rank up 3 different times to farm Saint Quartz. I'm assuming they learned their lesson with the Mecha Liz, because the Mecha Liz you can exchange for both of them. You can ascend both of them for the rewards and do the rank up for both of them as well, because they're technically 2 different servants. So I'm assuming that even though the Valkyries could use a buff and they wouldn't be like meta breaking or anything, they didn't want people to get too much Saint Quartz, right? Who knows? 6 Saint Quartz, that's a little too crazy. Jokes aside, I do think it is a little bit odd that they didn't get a buff, and neither did the Eris unit, because I think Eris could also probably use a buff. But hey, Kiichi Hogen got one, and Kiichi is my favorite of the 3 that came out. Scott Hawk with white hair, yes, sign me up, buddy. And the buff that they gave her is actually pretty nice. Now, it's not anything too crazy, right? Not like this is going to be meta-defining or meta-breaking in any way, but it is very nice if you look at it from a free-to-play player's angle. Because if you already have, like, say, the top supports in the game and all that good stuff, then this is probably not going to be the biggest deal for you. But if your box is a bit more low impact, or you just don't have some of the other secondary supports to kind of help out more of your looping units, or hey, maybe even your buster units, right? Maybe you're just missing out on that little bit of extra NP to try to do like a raw NP farm, as I'm kind of having to do if I ever want to use Ace the Savior, whipping out my Koyan Dark. Then this could be nice, because keep in mind that Kiichi already gives a pretty decent charisma on her 3rd skill, giving the entire party 20% attack and 20% NP gain for 3 turns respectively, and then now she is giving a 30% battery as well as 30% crit damage to an ally, while also skyrocketing their star weight. Well, I don't want to say skyrocketing, it's only 200%, but giving them more star weight for 1 turn so they can take advantage of that for the crits, and that's not too bad. You'll see that I put Nero Bride in the thumbnail, and when we looked at this on stream yesterday, which, by the way, you know, if you're not coming up to the streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, what are you doing? But when I initially looked at it, I thought of her as kind of like a free-to-play version of Nero Bride. She might be better in some aspects because she's an AoE, but just to kind of explain where this comparison is coming from, Nero Bride, if you've never used her, gives you a 45% NP gain buff, a 30% battery, and a 40% attack buff, as well as now giving you a Sky Attribute Power mod after her most recent buff a while ago. And it makes her a very solid, you know, pseudo art support. You can also use her with Quick Servants, because it's not like she's being tied to any one card type, but I think most people find that she does better in arts, probably because arts is just already better than quick is. You know, they're already kind of ahead in that aspect. But you could plug suit out, say, one of your ruler Scotties for, you know, Nero Bride over there, and you could get a pretty powerful effect, massively buffing up your NP gain, having a little bit of an additional battery, and getting some extra attack. But the reason I say that you might be able to argue that Kiichi might be a little bit better in some areas is just for the fact that she is an AoE servant, meaning that theoretically, if you need her to clear a wave, she could do that as a free NP5 servant. Say that your box isn't the craziest, not only could she function as somewhat of a support, you know, being able to give you that attack and that NP gain to help your other servant who might not be as built up. Maybe it's like an NP1, more B tier-ish servant that can't efficiently loop all 3 waves, but they could really handle, you know, waves 2 and 3, and they could get the job done over there. Maybe Kiichi could relieve the burden a little bit on them, you know, for just being able to take out a node. I mean, I'm trying to think of team setups that you'd actually be using to do that efficiently, where you also have assassins. I mean, I guess if you have like a Tets and your account isn't as fully built up, you know, you bring like a friend Castoria, have your Tets, and then bring Kiichi. Something along those lines could really work out, as you're giving your Tets the extra little bit of attack, you're giving them a little bit of extra NP gain, while also having that 30% battery that you could flex onto either Tets or your Kiichi Hogen. And then if you're more face card reliant, well, you could always use the battery on the 3rd turn, you know, get that additional battery, and then you also have star weight and crit damage for your face cards that are going to be following up your NP. So I do think it's pretty strong. I mean, overall, I'm not going to say that she's better than Nero Bride. I'm just saying that, hey, if you wanted to be a little bit smarmy and, you know, you wanted to kind of make a little bit of an argument for her, you know, maybe you're Kiichi's biggest defender, you could try to paint it in a light where it's like, well, technically, in these scenarios, she might be better. because having an AoE NP as your NP type is generally going to be more useful, as most waves in the game have multiple enemies, right? Sure, we now have like 90++ that's coming in, and they're starting to roll out more free quests that are just 1-1-1 enemies, but still, for the most part, most of the nodes that the average player is going to be doing are going to be multiple enemy nodes. So I think she'll be very helpful for that. But again, it's not like it's breaking the game or anything. It's not like she's gone from, you know, an okay free-to-play servant to the best free-to-play servant you've ever seen. It just gives her a little bit more utility because, let's be honest, it's just 10% additional NP and some additional crit damage, which is always nice. I guess if you're going to use it on her, you could think about going for her append skills, because they do give you all the coins you need to max out those append skills, and you do get a free 30% crit damage buff from append 4, I believe it is. And so technically, if you want to look at it that way, she could have 60% crit damage, which is not bad, as kind of a reference is that like Waver's first skill is a 50% crit damage buff, Merlin's is a 100% crit damage buff on his third skill. Although technically with his buff, he now also gives 50% on his second skill, but you get what I'm saying, right? If you need a reference for how much, you know, 60% crit damage is, that's kind of your ballpark. And then if you also consider the fact that you could also give her mana loading, so she could start with 20% battery, technically she has a 50% starting gauge if you consider her 30% battery here. So if you have a event CE that starts you off with 50% battery, technically she's compliant with that if you need her to clear a wave. There's some interesting stuff you can do when they just hand you all the coins and are able to do all of their appends. You know, it's one of the powerful things of being a free-to-play servant is that technically you can max all their stuff out. You can get the most damage out of them. You can max out all their little intricacies with their append skills, and you can really squeeze out more usage than you could with a lot of other servants just because you're lacking on the servant coin. But I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts in the comment section down below. You know, what do you think of this buff? Again, I think it's rather solid. I don't think it's really game breaking in any way, but I do think it'll be very nice, especially for people that just do not have the most built up accounts. I do wish that they went out and they did buff some of the Valkyries. You know, I wish they did give Eris something, but frankly, I'm just happy that I'm finally able to max out my Valkyries. If you don't know the story, I was way too in on trying to complete all of the summer stuff whenever they initially dropped that I forgot to farm all of their ascension materials. So they've been stuck at level 60 for the last couple of years, and it's been very triggering for me because I'm like, I want to finish my unit. You know, they're like the only unit on JP that I haven't finished. So I'm really excited that I'll be able to finish them up. And then I'm also excited that I'll finally be able to finish Eris on the NA side of things, because when the dice board, you know, the Fate Requiem event came out, I really didn't play it very much, you know, just to go ahead and admit that, because I'd already played it on JP and that was enough of a slog already. So when it came out over here, I was like, man, I don't want to farm this. I tried to get Eris, but I think she's also stuck at level 60. So hooray, I don't have to do like a rerun or anything, and I can get her maxed out, which is the real best part of this campaign for me. But with all of that being said, again, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. Leave a like on the video and subscribe if you enjoyed. Would like to see more daily FGO content. There is also stuff like the Discord and the Patreon link down in the description down below if you want to check those out. But with all that being said, I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch y'all in the next one.